If it was you, an African, who was found to have done the same things that Pravin did, they were not going to think twice. When Malusi Gigaba was found lying, they showed him the door. When the former minister of Ntantanene said he lied, they showed him the door. When public protector found now against Cyril Ramaphosa, some of the white journalists were beginning to say, it looks like Cyril must also take responsibility. Why? It's an African brother. If it's an African and the African is found guilty, there is no second guessing. He must go. But if it's a white or a deputy white, no, there is something wrong. Pravin is the one who's fighting corruption. Pravin is not the president of South Africa. We know the president of South Africa to be the one who's fighting corruption. Pravin did not contest any elections yet. Pravin was never elected by anyone. Therefore, he can't claim to be an authority that fights corruption in South Africa. He says, the EFF is fighting me because they are in the state-owned enterprises corruption. Who are not in that nonsense. We are not involved in any corruption of state-owned enterprises. That's why if we are involved in state-owned enterprises...
No tears here. EFF believes Pravin Gordhan's legacy is peppered with failure, exploitation and corruption. The economic freedom fighters say Pravin Gordhan died before he could face justice. Gordhan's legacy is one of failure, exploitation and corruption. May we never allow another Pravin Gordhan to rise again, the party said. On Friday morning, Gordhan's family announced that the 75-year-old former politician and struggle stalwart died after a short battle with cancer. Gordhan was a man whose legacy is deeply intertwined with the destruction of our state-owned enterprises and the betrayal of the people of South Africa. We cannot mourn counter-progressive forces that stood against the potential of building a successful, sovereign country that serves its people. Instead, we are reminded of the wreckage he leaves behind, wreckage that has ravaged the lives of ordinary South Africans, the EFF said. The EFF said Gordhan was the embodiment of greed, corruption and elitism. His tenure as Minister of Public Enterprises was a period of unparalleled disaster for every state-owned enterprise he touched. Under his leadership, Eskom became a shadow of its former self, plunging this country into a permanent state of load shedding, while blackouts shattered livelihoods and businesses across the nation. Transnet, which once facilitated the efficient movement of goods, is now in ruins, barely able to function. Denel, a proud defence company, was brought to its knees, while SAA, our national airline, was sold off in a corrupt deal that reeks of treason, the EFF said, highlighting the South African Airways Tokatso deal. The EFF said this remains one of the most scandalous examples of how Gordhan sold out the nation's assets for private interests. It said the deal was inexplicable, underhanded, and deliberately designed to benefit a select few at the expense of the many. Even now, the full extent of its treachery is not being properly scrutinized because Gordhan, a man at the center of corruption, evaded accountability at every turn. In fact, in his final days as minister, Gordhan brazenly spat in the face of South Africans, refusing to account to them. When summoned to appear before Parliament, the very institution through which he was supposed to answer to the people of South Africa, he arrogantly and unapologetically declared that he would not comply, showing his utter disdain for the people of South Africa, the EFF added. The party said Gordhan's unchecked power allowed him to operate with impunity. Now he dies with his crimes unpunished. Every collapsed enterprise and every failure that left hundreds of thousands unemployed is part of Pravin Gordhan's shameful legacy. As an unapologetic instrument of capitalism, he deliberately dismantled the very entities meant to uplift and develop our nation. His actions directly contributed to the high levels of unemployment, leaving countless families who are still suffering in silence. Gordhan betrayed the workers, the poor, and the oppressed, and he did so without a shred of remorse, the EFF said. We will not shed a tear for the likes of Pravin Gordhan, nor will we celebrate the false legacies created by his apologists. He will be remembered for his role in stifling the growth of our nation, destroying the hopes of millions, and enabling the collapse of our state entities, the EFF said.